So today I'm wanting to talk to you about how stress and burnout cannot be avoided by controlling our feelings. And I guess many of us out there are trying to avoid stress and the result of long-term stress, which of course is burnout. So what I used to think was true was that if I got my emotions under control, I would have less stress, that I would experience less stress, that I would have a nicer experience of life. And as a result of that, in fact for me it was post-burnout that this really stands out for me. When I started my first business, I ended up spending a lot of time trying to control my emotional state, how I was feeling on a moment by moment basis. Now, it might look, because it does in many a self-development realm, as it were, it might look like that's the thing to do. That if we could just not feel anxious, if we could not feel stressed, perhaps we could not feel overwhelm, perhaps if we could not feel anger, etc., that the result of that would be us functioning better, us having less stress in our lives. But in actual fact, what I'm pointing to here is that what that does is it gives you a lot more to think about, and also that it comes from the perspective that we would ever need to control our emotions. Like, underpinning that is that an emotion is something that needs to be controlled, isn't it? Just got attacked by a nettle then. Sorry, wasn't really the nettle's fault, was it? What a great metaphor. I walked into the nettle. Actual fact, the nettle was not jumping out in front of me and attacking me. What a great metaphor for the life that is, isn't it? From an inside-out perspective. I did walk into the nettle. So, and completely, of course, lost my train of thought in the process of that. So, back to my train of thought, which is that when we're trying to control our emotions, from the premise that an emotion is the thing that needs to be controlled, we end up really, really exhausted. I'm just going to stop so I can talk to you without huffing and puffing for a little minute. And yet really what happens when we're trying to control an emotion is, first of all, we're coming from a premise, a sort of presupposition that emotions need controlling, which is saying that an emotion is a problem, which of course I'm not wanting you to believe anymore. I'm pointing towards an emotion not being a problem and not being something that you need to control. So that's the first thing. That's a burden, isn't it? If we think we need to control our emotions, that's a massive burden. It's a lot to do. It's a lot to think about. It's maybe for you a lot of tools and techniques, or perhaps it's a lot of substance use or relationship use or experience use in the outside world to try and make yourself feel okay. And what it does is it makes the mind very busy, because every time we experience some kind of emotion, immediately the mind kicks in with all its ideas about how to get rid of that emotion. And I kind of smile, but ruefully, I guess you might say, because I did used to do a little workshop that was called Stress to Success Habits, during which I taught people these kind of, I think there were about 10 habits that I said were important for stress management, things that we should be doing every day in order to experience less stress. And that was delivered to people in businesses. I would not deliver that workshop to people in businesses anymore, ever, because that's not what I want people to see about stress anymore. But I now think those poor people came in already very busy-minded, already with a lot on their plates, and they went out with a whole list more things to do, but also took with them the perspective that their emotional state was something that A, needed controlling, and B, that they could control. And that is a place of exhaustion, really. It really, really is. So what might be helpful to see here is what an emotion really is. I love the word emotion, actually. I think it really speaks to what an emotion actually is. That an emotion is energy in motion, energy moving around our body, energy shifting and changing. That's all it is. It isn't anything other than that. It's not something to control. It's not a problem. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. The other thing to see about an emotion is that it's transient. Just like electricity running down a wire, it's, those particular bits of electricity are gone. They're there and gone. They're gone down the cable and into an item. Like my phone right now is using its stored electricity in its battery, and that's being converted into my ability to collect sound and video, and the screen to be lit up so that I can see myself, which is always a joy when you're making a video. The fact you have to look at your own face the whole time. But that's what's happening, and within you, that's what's happening. There's this energy moving all the time, and sometimes that energy comes with a level of discomfort. We can call it tension, or we can call it tightness, perhaps. Perhaps you might give it a more traditional name like anxiety or stress, but there's a felt sense of that in the body. Now, the felt sense of that in the body is just letting us know that our focus in that moment is on a particular unhelpful type of thinking. It's just information. Now, what happens when we accept that, when we see that, when we have that perspective shift really, is that we find ourselves much more able to sit with an emotion, to feel an emotion, to experience that in the body, be present to it, and not need to do anything about it. And my most recent experience of this have been very different. One of them was a story that I've shared before about me making my way across some high stepping stones over some water and finding myself afraid, to say the least, feeling a lot of anxiety in my body, feeling all that energy moving around, but being able to just stand with it and experience it without needing to do anything, and noticing how quickly it passed. The other more recent experiences have been multiple actually, and they've been around procrastination, which is very interesting if you're a high achieving Gen X woman because procrastination can be rife, can't it, and can seem like it's really disrupting our lives. And what I've started to notice recently is that I have started to notice when I'm procrastinating. So for me, not much on social media these days, so it tends to be a bit of YouTube maybe, sometimes just my email. And I'm going to it again and again throughout the day. And when I'm doing that, I know that I'm avoiding something. What I'm trying to avoid is feeling what I'm feeling. So recently I've started to just notice that habit and stop. No judgment of myself in that moment, but just to stop and feel. So just stop what I'm doing. Sit at my computer, put my hands in my lap, and just get in touch with my body. Like when I do that now, maybe you can do that right now. Right now I can feel that I'm a little bit out of breath. There's a physical sense of something there, and that I've been talking quite fast. And I can just observe that. Now when I do this when I'm procrastinating, what I usually notice is some kind of tension in the body. And after feeling it, there's suddenly a lot more clarity, and there's an ability to move forward. And that's really exciting to see when that happens. So in conclusion, if I'm ready to conclude, am I ready to conclude? We'll see. what I'm pointing to here is that when there is a need to try and avoid stress and burnout by controlling our emotions, we really are misunderstanding what our emotions are. And that actually, I mean, apart from anything else, it takes a lot less time to sit and feel an emotion than it does to try and remember the tool or technique, do the tool or technique, hope the tool or technique works. Oh, try another one because that first one didn't quite work and I still don't quite feel okay. And then notice that actually I feel a lot worse again. I have to go back to the beginning again and try another tool. Can you hear that? Like, for me, there's a stopping, there's a feeling of an emotion in the body, and then there's a moving on with the day. It takes a minute or two. So even on a practical level, trying to control your emotions is wasting too much time, and it's taking you away from clarity because it's making your mind super busy all the time trying to fix your emotions. You don't need that. You don't need anything else to do on your list, do you? I mean, I don't know about you, mine's quite long, my list, and I don't even make many lists but at the moment mine is quite long. Lots of exciting things I'm doing in my business that I will share with you at some point in the future, or drop me an email if you want to know more. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. I hope that's a helpful way of seeing. I haven't talked about the weather today, but quite a nice afternoon today. However, probably you can start to see there's a yellowing going on. There's definitely some yellow in the trees. There's definitely leaves on the ground now. There we go. So autumn is coming, but you might not be watching this video in autumn. Let's hope you're watching this video when the UK has a burning hot summer. Everything crossed for that one, eh? Anyway, hopefully that's useful, and yeah, you can always reach out and chat to me if you fancy doing so. Take care. Thank you so much for checking this video out. I'm sure you'll find there's other videos on my channel that are helpful. Take care. Lots of love.